Hello, welcome. I'm here to share with you a project that I'm working on how I make my page markers. So I find that a majority of the page markers are loose, but I can't stand loose page markers because I will just lose them. So mine's are actually attached to my band. My page markers are typically two separate pieces attached together with some packaging tape and then folded together and then put under my band, just like that. How I would use it in my weeks inserts, instead of putting the insert through the middle part, I would just flip it to my current week, so we're in March, and just slide it under that way, just like that. This particular page marker is made using the TPS digital kit at Christy Tomlinson's Etsy page. And what I did was printed out on acetate and used it as my base. I don't know if you can see that there. And for this side, I attached a heart doily as well as a die, attached them together, and then ran it through the laminator. So this sticks out from the top, so it's laminated, so it's nice and tough and it will last. I accordion folded the paper and then I actually sewed them together here using some gray stitching, and then I actually sewed it onto my acetate sheet and then trimmed it afterwards. And then once I have that, I would layer my dies. On this side, after I laminate, I layer my dies on afterwards as well. So if you're interested on how I layer my dies, definitely check out my, my other video. So the other page marker I wanted to share is one from the December kit. So for this piece, I saved a piece of scrap and laminated that along with a die here that came with the kit, and again stuck it out at the top. And then I layered my dies on top on this one. For this side, this was just a punch that I used from a long time ago, but I layered some dies on this side along with florals, and then I used a page topper. So I'll be using one today, so you'll see how I made this one, and then I put a little divider on the top of that one. The last two page markers I wanted to share are from the January kit. So here's the first one. So I also accordion folded this and sewed it on. Instead of attaching and laminating for a die on this one, I used a vellum sheet because I wanted to see the lower pattern of the cardstock underneath. So instead I used a die, laminated it, cut it out, and then I attached it on top. The back side is just a normal piece of cardstock. I didn't have an extra cluster to add to this one, so I just threw a Target dollar spot pocket in. But the nice thing with these page markers, you can totally add more pockets here for more space, which is pretty cool. The last page marker I wanted to share before I start my process video is this one here. So Christy put in really beautiful doilies, and so I wanted to preserve those. So I also laminated those and attached it to, again, scrap pieces here. For this side, I used a framelit die cut to cut this piece out of the vellum and also attached it to my scrap piece. So let's go ahead and jump into the February kit and make our next page marker together. For the base, I want to use this beautiful pocket that Christy added to our kit, and I wanted to place this inside my band in my TN. So I was going to use my two favorite dies that I picked from my die cut clusters that I made with the kit in a prior video, and I wanted this one on the front. I was going to put that on the front and this one on the back, and then I wanted to add some embellishments, so I really love this one. So I was going to use this in the pocket as my page topper, but when I put this one in right here, it just fit perfectly. So you can see how it frames the teacups and the flowers really beautifully there. So I'm going to go with this die. For the back, I was thinking of using a page topper from an older kit and a divider on top of that. And then I have some really cute embellishments that I wanted to use. To begin, I always start with my base layer. So for example, in this page marker here, my base layers are the 2 strips of cardstock here. The 2 sides of my base layers are always attached together with some packaging tape separated by some distance, and the reason being is when I fold it flat, the packaging tape actually hugs around the jump band or the band very nicely. So in order to do that with my new base layer, I will have to trim it down right here to separate the pieces. I'm also going to laminate them to provide it some structure here. So we have successful detachment and lamination of my 2 pieces. A couple things to note when you do start to trim these down. This is actually made for a B6 size, so 5 by 7. So you want to make sure you trim it to 7 inches. Now, I always overshoot it and then trim down slowly, because if you trim exactly, you may not get your perfect trims on both sides. So I always start wide on both sides and then trim closer and closer and closer until I get to my 7 inches in height. So I'll go ahead and trim open this pocket with my X-Acto knife. So you want to stop right there at the edge of the paper. You don't want to go past that. So here I just stopped right at the edge of the paper there. So let's go ahead and attach our pieces here to our cover. So I left this long because I wanted to provide space to mount my die cut cluster. So I'm going to mount it on one side and get my paper, my scissors around to trim enough room, and then seal it down afterwards. When mounting any of my dies, I always want to make sure I stay within my width. So the width of my inserts is 5 inches, so I want to make sure whenever I'm mounting anything, I don't go past those 5 inches. So I want to stay within the border here. I like to use these clear adhesive dots to mount my pieces here, so let me do that now. So I'm going to apply a glue dot right under here. So I always tear a piece off and put it under my piece of paper or my piece of cardstock and apply a little pressure and lift it off so it stays. Oh, needs a little bit more pressure there. So now it's going to stay on the paper, and just pull it right off and apply more pressure to stick to my base layer. I'm going to do it again down here. So now I'm going to trim around this piece here. I trimmed it just short of my tag. So I'm going to apply a couple more glue dots here. Now we're going to move on to the back piece. So it's going to go like this, and for the back I want to mount this here. But before I do that, I think I'm going to add my top note to it first. So for the top of the page marker, I'll be adding a little bit of this ruffle to the top. So I'm going to trim the ends a little bit and use this Wonder Tape to adhere it. My Wonder Tape. Just going to put a few strips down. Put enough pressure on it and then peel off the red. And then apply my ruffle. Now I'm going to add my page topper. So I wanted to trim this off and use this on top, just like that. So I'm just going to use just my tape runner on that. Make sure it's in the middle. So I'm going to apply this right here on the top. So I want to make sure it sticks up a little bit from my inserts, so I'm going to make sure I mount it a little bit higher, just a tad. So now I want to make sure I add my back cluster, but I want to make sure it's mounted where I want it to be. So I'm going to put all my pieces together, and I kind of want it to stick out the front like a border. But I don't like how this is exposed, so I'm going to grab another layer and layer it on the back like that. And then mount this piece onto here. So glue dots are really good at adhering non-paper items. So I'm sticking paper to this slick lamination piece, so that's why I'm using glue dots. Last part is to attach them together with some masking tape. Okay, so I pulled out my paper trimmer because it has the ruler on here and the lines to keep my tape. When I tape it down, I want to make sure it stays straight. So if I pull out my sample, it's about 1 centimeter apart. So if you look at don't look at my cardstock, look at where the end of the laminated sheet is. It's about right here and here. So I'm going to tape down my first piece along the 19 centimeter mark here, and I want to make sure this is aligned on the bottom, and I'm going to tape it down. The second piece will be about 1 centimeter apart, so I'm going to try to line up close to the 18 mark here and make sure it lines on the bottom right here too. Okay, so I got my Scotch tape. So one piece I'm going to use on the front, the other piece I'm going to use on the back. And just apply it right on. Make sure they overlap both pieces, obviously. Last part is to fold them together, so I want to make sure that I line up the edges and I crease it with my nail or with a bone folder. Okay, and there you have it. That is done. So let me try it out inside my TN. Okay, here it is. Let's see how it looks inside. There we are. So let's put all our goodies in. So I'm gonna tuck in my teacups. You can even put some stickers in. And you could even add a Target dollar spot pocket here too for more space. There we go. So that just sticks out of my TN a little bit, even the cute little ruffles on the back. There it is. So I like to dig my nail in and kind of allow it to hug my band here. There we go. So over time it will lay more flat. Or you can even paper clip it if you wanted to keep it down. There it is. I hope you like it. So if you want to see more of my projects, definitely find me on Instagram at Twilight Planner. Alright, thank you so much for joining me. Take care.